This has honestly been one of the hardest podcasts to get up and get recorded because we've been completely displaced right now. This is insanity.
Yeah, it was hard to find a place like a quiet place to record. And even now, we have two dogs in the room with us who at any moment could get a spurt of energy and want to play, and we're going to have to pause. Welcome to the Wandering RV Podcast, your bi-weekly source for our stories.
Wait. Hold on. We've been saying this every other week for about 6 episodes now, and I want to jump right into it. We say our stories, our scripts, and our successes. Well, let's start off with what is our biggest success of the year.
Oh, okay, well, we're jumping right in. Hello, friends. My name's Kara. Just in case you missed that. And this is my driver, Ryan. I think for me, our biggest success was we've been camping, off and on all our lives, but this was our first full year. We've been on the road a little over a year now. Can you believe that?
That's insane.
It's insane. And for our first full year on the road, we went and actually camped out and spent some time to get to know the area in 10 different states. 10 different states.
Wow, I don't think I'd even counted how many states we'd been at.
Yeah. That did not include the ones where we just stopped over for a week, but we didn't get a chance to go explore the area, or where we stopped over for a night or anything like that. That was places where we actually went and explored.
So our biggest success from your perspective is that we survived 10 states or that we visited 10 states.
That we explored 10 states. We survived some of the other craziness, but we explored 10 states.
I'm going to go with our biggest success is that we haven't had to use any of the equipment that I've prepared in case of emergencies.
So your measure of success is that we didn't have a ton of screw-ups.
Correct. I mean, it's not necessarily even a screw up. I mean, you could have a flat tire and be on the side of the road. You didn't screw up.
Well, that's true, yes.
It's just that we planned for all the emergencies, but we didn't have to actually use any of them.
And now you have just doomed us to where 2023, we're going to have all of the emergencies happen.
Okay, well, that's our successes. Again, stories, screw up, successes. Okay, what's our biggest screw up for the year?
Oh, okay. So mine has to be the Great Peanut Incident.
It's always the peanuts. It's
always the peanuts. So this was maybe our second trip, and we were heading out to see some friends. And the weather was terrible. It was really windy. We actually had to pull over a couple different times just to let the wind gusts pass because it was actually dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, there were 18-wheelers pulled over just resting it out. We're talking really high winds, really high gusts, and very little visibility because there was actually a dust storm at the same time.
Yeah. But because it was only our second outing and the first trip had been really, really smooth sailing and peak conditions, this one was pretty bumpy. And I learned the hard way that if you have snacks at the top of the pantry and you don't tie everything down really securely, you're gonna end up with a mess on your hands. And so we ended up getting in, we got settled, we, pulled all the slides out and everything, and I went to go open the pantry door, and peanuts just started falling from the sky. In fact, they embedded themselves in, so we have a slide that is right next to our pantry, and some of them somehow or another had gotten on the top of the slide. So for about 4 or 5 weeks afterwards, when we were moving and pulling the slides in and out, I would find peanuts on the ground after we got settled somewhere because they were lodged between the slide and the door. It was crazy.
I'm fairly certain we found peanuts 4 or 5 months after
Yes.
this occurrence.
I mean, thank goodness, though, it wasn't like I had olive oil up there or milk or something like thank goodness it was peanuts, and they were fairly easy to clean up, and they didn't have a ton of sugar or anything like that in them. So
who stores milk in the pantry?
Well, I don't know. Somebody might. It's not a good idea. But my point is that thank goodness it was a snack mess that was easy to clean up and didn't attract a ton of bugs and stuff. And I was able to like do a good deep down clean and get it all cleaned up. But man, that was funny. I now know to tie everything down. Bungee cords, tie downs, things like that are your friend for sure. And if you question whether or not you should tie it down, the answer is yes, you should absolutely tie it down and use those little, I like to use the little oh gosh, what's they're called?
Tension rod, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a little tension rod. It's like the ones that you would find, hanging up a shower curtain, but they're little and they're specifically designed for either a fridge or a pantry. And I use those a lot as well, in addition to bungee cords and tension rods and tie downs, all of the things. And we've not had a problem since. But that was a lesson learned. What about you? What's your biggest screw up from this past year?
I mean, technically, it didn't happen within the past 12 months, but I will say my biggest screw up has to be the night I was leaving our trailer behind and left the black tank flush running as, as I drove 45 minutes down the road before realizing that I did not turn it off and going back to clean up a black.
It was a mess.
It was a mess. It had come up obviously through the toilet and had spilled out over on into the bathroom, and some even got down into the living room. It was all clean. I had just been flushing the tank, so the water really wasn't like gnarly nasty, and we'd only been in the camper for maybe 2 months at this point anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it definitely was a very important lesson that you don't let your neighbor distract you, because that's exactly what happened. Is our neighbor came out to check on me and see what we were doing, or when we were getting back from our trip, and I had turned the flush on and I had closed the valve to like get do a little bit of extra flush. If you're in the know, you just gotta turn the flush on and then you shut the valve, let it fill up a little bit, and then you dump. Well, I'd forgotten the dump part, and I'd already done it a couple of times. So I forgot to finish that dump, and I forgot to turn the water running into the black tank off.
Yeah, that was a pretty big screw up. But thankfully, like you said, it wasn't super gnarly nasty water because you had done it before by that point, and you did a really good job of sanitizing and cleaning up afterwards, because I was actually out of town, and so I'm halfway across the country at this point, and you text me and you're like, hey, so black tank overflowed, and I'm like, oh shit, literally. And thankfully I get back to the house and you had cleaned it up and you did a great job. It was sanitized, nothing smelled, everything was fine, nothing leaked, nothing broke. So in the grand scheme of screw ups, those I think are pretty tame.
Okay, before we get on to our stories, let's talk about where are we at? Why are we displaced?
We are displaced. We're homeless. We're homeless.
We are currently homeless.
We are currently homeless.
So our RV, I dropped it off about 2 weeks ago at the dealership where we bought it, and it is getting worked on. It's really just a few warranty items that we're getting done, which is a pain for sure. And we have 1 more week, and we will be getting our RV back, whether it's done or not, unfortunately.
Yeah, it'll be there by the end of next week. It'll be there for 3 weeks, which was longer than we expected, kind of. We had a contingency plan knowing that it could be up to 3 weeks, but next week we absolutely have to have it back because we're taking off again. And the warranty issues are not super terrible, so they're things that you can fix on your own if you need to, so it's not as big a deal, but we'd like to try to get as much done as we can. And this is actually an extension, so we had to extend our warranty, which, fun fact, if you try to get into your dealership to get it serviced within the first 12 months of purchasing a brand new one that has a warranty, and you're unable to get in, call the manufacturer and ask them if they will extend your warranty. A lot of times they will, especially if you can show proof that you have tried to get in and for some reason their service department was just too busy or, wasn't responding to you or whatever the case may be. So that's exactly what happened to us. We were able to extend it. We were able to get in now, which is great during the holidays. And thankfully, we have family that we can stay with, so that way we're not charging an arm and a leg at a hotel.
Well, we're not charging an arm and a leg at a hotel, but we are paying for a campsite that we are unable to use. But I needed to have ready just in case we get the trailer back at any given moment.
That's true. That's true. Although it was really crazy getting ready to put the trailer in for service because, they're not necessarily going to leave it plugged in for this entire period of time. So we had to pull out all of our food, all of our valuables and important items, anything that we would need during this time. And that was fun because our family has, fridge and freezer just like everybody else does, but not enough for 2 families worth. And so for a little while, we actually had a cooler that we just kept having to switch out the ice in to keep some of our refrigerated items cold.
Yeah, it was quite an experience, but we've gone through some of our food. Oh, and by the way, we also at this time we're coming back from Thanksgiving, which meant we had a bunch of leftover Thanksgiving meat as well.
Yes, yeah. It was extra full, more so than normal. But yeah, we've kind of taken over their house. Our pantry is currently sitting on their dining room table, and we've just spread out across 3 or 4 different rooms of the house. So thankfully, they're very patient and allowing us to stay here while the RV gets worked on.
It's amazing. We don't really have that big of a closet, but when you go to somebody's home who's not your home, you realize your closet, when not in a closet space, takes up a lot of space because
Yeah.
like we have all of our hanging stuff in one of the closets, but then like we have everything that we had in like cubes and things like that just sprawled out on the floor across one of the bedrooms. So it has been quite an experience, quite an ordeal. We currently have 2 dogs because they have their dog, we have our dog. Luckily, both of them get along really, really well, and they're both sleeping right now, which is amazing. And I hope it stays that way for the rest of the podcast.
So that we can record in peace.
So this is officially our last episode for the year.
It is, and we've had an amazing year so far.
So we want to answer some questions for each other about how 2022 has treated us.
Yes, this is like our year in review of 2022 and all the things that we've done living that full-time RV life.
Okay. So you've got a list of questions here. We both have our own separate answers. I haven't seen yours. You haven't seen mine. So we're going to see
Correct.
how many we agree on and how many we disagree on. So first question, most memorable destination.
Oh, I can't narrow it down to just one, but I can narrow it down to a couple of moments. So for me, it's really 2. The first one is Kentucky. So we spent a few weeks on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. We had a blast. We loved it. But like the last 2 or 3 days that we were there, we found out about this speakeasy type thing at Buffalo Trace where you can just show up about an hour before they open, and they will have a special release of one of their specialty items, and it's only about 200 bottles that they'll release at a time. And if you call them and ask about this, they will deny it. So it's very much a speakeasy, like you literally just have to show up and go. And we had been looking for Blanton's and Eagle Rare. We couldn't find it anywhere. None of the distilleries had it. None of the liquor stores had it. And we showed up one day, they had Blanton's. We showed up the next day, they had Eagle Rare. And literally we left the very next day after that. So that was really cool and certainly a memorable occasion for me. And then I think the other one was Philly. We had so much fun in Philly and just, I don't know, going to Gino's and Pat's and trying one of each, and then going to all of the historical things like the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall and the American History Museum. All of that was just really, really cool and fun to kind of get immersed in our U.S. history. So I picked 2. What are yours?
You picked 2. You are such a cheater. You're always a cheater.
I'm always a cheater. So what was your most memorable destination?
Oh, I'm going to have to go with Florida. Fort
Yeah.
Pierce. This was a random find. I was looking for somewhere nice that we could go for the winter. We were just going to stay a little bit, hang out, have some fun, and then we'd start on the rest of our travels. And we just found an awesome community to be a part of, and we want to go back as often as we can. And so for me, that's got to be the most memorable. It's just Fort Pierce and the community that we built there and the friends that we have, the friends that we want to see again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it had some really cool stuff too. Like there were free beaches, which was amazing because then we got to go to the beach as often as we wanted. That was super fun getting to go play in the ocean. It was warm enough to go play in the ocean in February. And then they had the Navy SEAL Museum, which you
Yes.
loved. That was really awesome. We were super close to West Palm Beach and some other places too. So we rented boats and jet skis and we
Yeah.
had a
It
blast.
was just so much fun, so enjoyable, and it's just I think the community though is what really makes it is that there was just a really cool community. We were playing poker every Wednesday night and having
Yeah,
fun. It just I've already been talking with some of them. They're excited for when we get to come back. We're not back for a little while, but we're gonna play some poker for sure. And you and I have been playing, practicing our skills together,
it's true.
trying to get as good as we can.
Yep, we're coming for you. We're coming for you. All right, so next question. Most expensive destination.
Well, I honestly now I want to know what you're gonna say because you don't really pay for anything.
That is true. I don't. You make all the reservations and you pay for all of the things that we do. But my answer would be New York. I think New York was probably the most expensive place. Just all around, everything was just much more expensive in New York.
Okay, yeah, that's I mean totally 100%. It's New York. I just wanted to see if you actually had a concept on it or not. I mean, the restaurants alone. I was telling my sister about this actually just recently. Like what might be a $10 or $15 meal in Texas is at bare minimum going to be 35 to 40 bucks in New York City.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak to all of New York, but New York City has like we went to a sandwich shop and I think it
We
was
spent $40 for a sandwich.
for a sandwich and a bag of chips. That's it. It was a very
It
good
was an amazing
it
sandwich.
was a very good sandwich, but it was a crazy expensive sandwich. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, different environments, different cultures and everything, but it was definitely the most expensive area that we had been to in our entire travels for the entire year. Now, what I will say is I don't know if we actually spent more money there or if we've spent more money in Kentucky buying bourbons, but as far as just the general cost, New York was the most expensive.
But I will say, if you do go to New York City, which you should absolutely do, it's a cool place to go. There's a really great campground that's about 2 hours northwest, I guess, of New York City called Black Bear Campground in Florida, New York, of all places. And it's fairly close to the train station. So you can actually take the train station into New York City and then obviously the subway system to get around, which makes travel much more convenient in and out of the city. It's still about a 2 hour commute, so just keep that in mind. But that was really, really nice to be as close as we were, but still far enough away from the city where we got to just enjoy kind of upstate New York.
Okay, now on the opposite side, what is the least expensive destination?
My guess is either between Ohio or St. Louis. Because Ohio, we just went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We weren't there very long, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was like, I don't know, just a few bucks to get into, and it was a full day of entertainment. And then St. Louis, we explored the Arch, and we paid a little bit for going up into the Arch itself, but actually just going and exploring the Arch didn't cost a ton of money.
I'd say that's fair. Our least expensive location, though, was actually Austin, Texas.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Technically McDade, a little bit outside of Austin, but in that area was Austin, Texas, was the least where we spent the least amount of money, and on both the campsite, on everything we did, it was just all around the least expensive location.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of fun free things to do in Austin too that you don't realize. It's a foodie town, so you can absolutely go broke spending money on all kinds of yummy things to eat. But we did a lot of stuff like exploring Congress Street and going to the governor's mansion and places like that where it was either free or really close to free. So that was a lot of fun. And then they had all kinds of biking trails. And so we explored Austin through all of their little biking trails, and all of that was free as well. So yeah, that's a good call out. All right. Next question. Most unique destination that we went this year.
Branson.
Why Branson?
I knew Branson was going to be a touristy type area, and I knew, like, I had a concept in my head of what it was going to be like, but it just blew my mind. There are entire businesses in Branson that their whole job is to sell you tickets to go do something else. Like travel agencies, I understand. This is like tourist agencies, and there are many of them. that
Yeah.
their whole job is to sell you a ticket to go do something else and try and sell you on buying tickets to more things to do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It is a very unique touristy type location. And so yeah, I could see why that would be an answer. Mine was Door County. I loved Door County. I think the way that they've kind of captured that Scandinavian culture and just doing like traditional fish boils that they've done since the 1800s and things like that was really really cool just going up into Door County and getting to go visit all of the things that are up there.
Yeah, probably that would be my second one, would be Door County, because it is different, it's unique. Like you said, the culture of just kind of this old school fishing town
Mhm.
in the modern day with like lots of fun things to do. It was really, I 100% say that is a very unique location to go to.
Yes, I agree.
So, we're talking about destinations a little bit here. Which one do we need to go back to?
I don't know. I think Chicago was a cool one. We were only there one night. So that one I think is worthy of another visit. We did get to go have traditional Chicago style pizza at Gino's East, which was really tasty. I've been to Chicago a couple different times, but that was the first time you got to go, and we literally only got to spend one night there. So I think that deserves another visit at some point.
I would agree with that. Chicago is definitely on my list. Philly is on my list as well.
Oh, yeah.
We really didn't get to spend a ton of time in Philly because you had a work event come up
Mm-hmm.
that we needed to leave early for. And so I don't even know what all there is else to do, but all I know is we really didn't get more than maybe 2 days in Philly. And there are so many things that I would love to just go and explore and just check out. Like, we really only drove into the city for the things that we had looked up in advance that we wanted to do, and we really didn't get the opportunity to like immerse ourselves and find new things to do, which is really important in my book, is finding the places that other people recommend to go to.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so flipping that question on its head, what are some destinations that we missed along our way this past year that we absolutely would want to go back and see because we didn't get a chance to stop by those places?
Nashville.
Oh, Nashville. Yeah, that's a good one.
We totally, I mean, just because of timing, we totally drove right through Nashville, and I'm just like, I want some hot chicken right now.
Oh, you're singing about it. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a must to go back and visit. We've been to Nashville before, but
We have.
it's been a while.
It's been a minute, and it was just more the fact that we literally drove right through it. Well, I guess we technically drove around it, but still,
Yeah, we were
we
in the area.
we were in the area, and because of timing, we couldn't stop off. We couldn't go hang out. I mean, I think we even had like a one night stay that was maybe 15 minutes west of Nashville. If it hadn't been for the fact that we were traveling again the next day and I didn't want to unhitch the truck, we probably could have gone in and just had dinner that night. And I totally thought about it, but I decided against it. Decided
Yes.
save the money, save the stress, and just stay where we were and eat our frozen pizza or whatever it was that we ate that night
Yes.
so we could travel the next day to get on our way down towards Kentucky.
Yes. I think for me, it has to be essentially all the spots along the East Coast that we missed, including like all the way from Miami, Florida, because we didn't get a chance to get into Miami this past year, even though we were in Florida for quite some time. And then we didn't get a chance to go to like Maine and go check out Maine and Massachusetts and Washington, D.C., and some of those places we didn't have time to go see this time around. So I would love to go back to the East Coast and really just bebop around the coast, all up and down the north to the south.
I think those are all great places to check out. I would be very excited to do an East Coast trip with you. Do you want to do an East Coast trip with me?
We should do an East Coast trip. Yes.
Sounds like fun. Okay. So, when you're in an RV, you're staying at campsites. So, what is the most unique campsite that we've been at?
I think it has to be the casino in Iowa for me. We were there for a week because it was over Labor Day. We forgot to get plans in advance and schedule reservations in advance, which, by the way, Labor Day is probably the biggest camping weekend of the year, so shame on us. But We found a diamond in the rough by staying at this campground that was attached to a casino in the middle of Iowa. There was literally nothing else there except this campground and this casino, but it was a lot of fun for the week.
Okay, yeah, I can see. It was a lot. It was very interesting for sure.
Uh-huh.
But I'm gonna have to go with for the most unique, and it's probably really not that unique. It's the fact that Florida, New York was beautiful
Oh, it was gorgeous.
out
Yes.
in the mountains and just nothingness. You don't think about it when you're thinking about New York, especially when you're thinking 2 hours outside of New York City. You're like, oh, it's maybe going to be kind of suburbanized. No, this is like small town, middle of nowhere, beautiful mountains, and the view from where the spot that we had was amazing.
Yeah. Honorable mention though goes to New Jersey because we were at this little campground in New Jersey, off the beaten path. It was way out in the country. When we got there, the cherry blossoms were blooming, and that was gorgeous. And then we were right next to this pasture that had all of these cows. So in the mornings, you could hear the cows mooing, and it was just very, very pleasant and picturesque and quiet, but beautiful. All right, most sketch campground.
I don't want to say any names. So, I'm gonna say it's going to be the campground that we stayed at outside of New Orleans, and I'm just gonna leave it with that.
Yeah. Now, I will say, New Orleans was a blast.
Yeah,
So
New Orleans was amazing. The campsite was a little.
it was a little sketch, but we weren't there. We were exploring New Orleans most of the time, and I have to say, the adult-only ghost walking tour was on point. So much fun. We stopped at Patson Head, a hurricane, and then just heard all kinds of cool stories about New Orleans and the history of New Orleans and how it came to be. But certainly, some of the stories were not appropriate for little ones.
Okay, quick fire a little bit. I'm a little bit of a road snob. What is the best and worst road that we've been on?
Worst road, I'm going to answer first because that one is the one I can think of first. All over New Jersey. Their roads were terrible.
I don't know. I might disagree with you. I think the drivers were horrible, but I don't know that their roads were the worst.
They were pretty bad. They were really bumpy.
Okay, you might be right. I'm trying to remember because I didn't. Maybe I was so annoyed with the New Jersey drivers that I didn't notice that the roads were as bad.
They were bumpy. They had potholes everywhere.
I feel like the roads in Louisiana were worse. But it might be clouded because there was a
Are
really.
you talking about the bridge from hell?
No, I'm just talking about the fact that the road. I feel like the roads in Louisiana might have been worse, but it's hard to say because I might be biased because there was a scary bridge and New Jersey had bad drivers, and so I was paying attention to the drivers and not to the road. So that maybe.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. I could see that. And if I had to pinpoint one thing, I would say that bridge from hell was definitely the scariest and definitely the worst road we drove on.
Okay, so best road then.
This might just be recency bias creeping in, but I think 35 from Duluth all the way down through Oklahoma was pretty easy, very well paved road to be in.
I was honestly surprised. I'm going to say, like, Oklahoma surprised me a little bit because growing up in Texas near Oklahoma, I'd driven there enough to know that their roads used to be really bad.
Yeah.
And now coming back through, on 35 at least, they've done a lot of work and they really have improved their roads a ton and are doing really, really well. And so I would agree with you. Pretty much 35 from Duluth through Oklahoma. Not once you get to the DFW area, but
Yeah, everything's under construction there.
outside of that, yeah, I would agree with that. That's probably been the best roads.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a couple of zingers for the end.
Okay.
What has been the biggest adjustment for nomadic life?
Nomadic life on the road. For me, I think it's travel day. So travel day is sacred, and we have to kind of start preparing for travel day the day before in advance a little bit, and then make sure again everything's tied down, everything's locked away, everything's put away. Travel day is a little bit stressful in general just because we're driving from one place to another. Obviously, driving has its own dangers and risks. Plus, we're taking our entire home and all of our belongings with us every single time we hit the road. So, travel day, I think, is kind of the biggest adjustment in terms of nomadic life that is different than if you're just at a home that is a sticks and bricks home, or even just living the full-time RV life but stationary.
I would totally agree. Travel day. It's not going to be my answer, but I'm going to agree with you. Travel day being sacred was a big deal, and we kind of had to discover that a little bit. Like we knew we needed to protect and really focus on travel day, but I think there was a little bit of time there where we weren't quite giving it the respect it needed the day before or the day after travel day. Of like, the day before we need to get some stuff done before we go to bed. We don't need to just do everything. We can, and we totally have before, and it's not that big of a deal. But when we can, try and get some stuff done the day before, so that way in the morning we can actually kind of wake up and we're more just going over the checklist more so than actually doing stuff.
Well, and it's important to get a good night's sleep the night before, and then the next day after travel day. It's important to recognize you're going to be tired. You may not feel like you're tired because you're sitting in a car all day, but you are going to be tired. And so, it's kind of a 3-day ordeal.
It is. It really is. And I think some people who just travel every now and then, it's not as big of a deal. You've got the adrenaline. You're going on vacation. You're going to be there for a week, and then you're taking off back home, and then you're done. No big deal. You have your post vacation rest that everybody needs because you never actually rest when you're on vacation.
Right?
But for us, it's different because it's not a vacation. It's part of the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so it's not like a once off thing here and there. You're not the novelty, I guess, is not as interesting, and so you have to be extra attentive to making sure that that time is still sacred, like you said. I like that word, sacred.
Yes.
So my answer for the biggest adjustment to nomadic lifestyle is just been thinking things through in advance more often. When you've got your home and you're living in a sticks and bricks home, you don't have to think about certain things in advance as often. You don't have to think about where am I going, what am I doing. You might plan a vacation, but that's it. Whereas for us, it's like we were talking about earlier, we had to go to a Iowa casino because we didn't think about Labor Day coming up, and we needed to plan in advance. And you don't maybe think about Labor Day as any other special day, except it is because a bunch of campers are out on the road that weekend and taking up campsites, and you got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
So just weird things like that you kind of have to think ahead in a different way than you would. And so just like that forethought, just always thinking ahead, thinking through, like, we had been down in Austin for about 2 months, and because especially like in this case, we were stationary for a long time. Now what do we have to think about to get us back up and mobile again? So just little interesting things like that.
Yeah, or even things like normal things that you do on a regular basis, getting mail, going to the grocery store, things like that. Because we're in a different spot all the time, those are things that we have to put a little bit more effort into in order to make happen versus, if you didn't have this lifestyle.
Okay, so with that all said, now's your time to pick. What has been the most fun thing that we have done for the whole year?
Okay, this is going to sound like a totally campy answer, but I think just exploring new places with you has been a lot of fun. We like to go do the same things. We both like to discover new things and kind of discover things organically. We don't like to go in with a ton of pre-planned things. And we love just talking to the locals and finding out, what's the cool thing to do here that's like this hole in the wall place or this thing that nobody else knows about. And so I love that you and I both love to adventure that way and love to go and explore places that way. And so we've gotten to see some really cool stuff and do some really cool stuff this past year in amazing places across the country because we just kind of go and explore.
Okay. I mean, it's a little bit of cop out, but it's fair. It's fair. I would say the most fun thing we did this year was Campgiving.
Campgiving was great.
That was a lot of fun.
I
and
agree.
There was a lot that went into getting all of our family on both sides, actually, to come together and be able to have Thanksgiving at a campsite and just really enjoy ourselves together. It was very rainy, which was unfortunate, so we weren't able to be outside as much as we wanted to, but we were able to enjoy ourselves, and that I think that was just such a cool experience, and I know it's one that we're going to be trying to repeat every year and just have some fun camping and doing Thanksgiving not at a home but out in the wilderness.
Yes. Yeah, it was hilarious because it actually rained on Thanksgiving Day. So we had 9 adults and 2 dogs in our camper at the same time. And it was quite cozy, but we had a blast. We had so much fun, ate great food. Like you said, it wasn't raining the entire time. And so we got to explore all kinds of fun things around the campsite and just spend really good quality time with family.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you one more question. I'm gonna throw you a curveball here. What is the most important or useful item that we purchased this year, just for the purpose of full timing? Not necessarily RVing, but like literally you needed it because we're full timing.
Oh, I gotta say, internet. Like, so our internet solutions were critical, not only for being able to just kind of plan things out, plan our next adventure out, and know that we're going to be connected, but also just, because of us working during the week and needing good internet during the week, or wanting to be able to stream movies or TV shows, or you be able to play your games or things like that. So the internet solutions that we came up with and that we purchased this year, I think were clutch. What
Yeah,
about you?
I'm gonna say I think this could go a little bit beyond just full timing, but I feel like the thing I'm valued the most buying this year was a grill guard for the truck.
Okay, I was not expecting that answer from you, but do explain.
I mean, we're driving across the country with our home, and we've seen plenty of deer out and about running around. We've seen them dead on the side of the road, getting hit by somebody else, obviously,
We've seen a couple jump out at
and we've had
us.
a few jump out at us. And just having that peace of mind that we have a little extra barrier of protection for both the truck and us if something does happen makes me feel a lot safer. And so, from that perspective, I'm thinking because we bought it this year, it is the most important thing that we bought. And I'm glad that we haven't had to use it yet.
I think that is a great item. Good choice, sir.
Thank you.
So we have a fan question this week. Some of the questions that we were asking each other were actually some fan questions, but we get this particular question quite often, and I think it is applicable for this episode. And that question is, how long are we planning to do this?
I cannot even. I don't think I could count the number of times we've been asked that question, and my answer is always the same. Until we can't, honestly, really, like I think we knew we wanted to do this. We knew this was what we wanted, the lifestyle we wanted to get into, and I think 1 year in, I can't imagine not doing it.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
I don't want to go back to sticks and bricks. I want to keep wheels on my home for as long as I am physically and financially able to.
I agree. Well, and even the few times where we've stayed somewhere for a longer period of time, like we were in Austin for a few months, and there was a point where we were in Florida for a few months. I loved it, but at the same time, when it was time to go, I was ready. I was ready to hit the road and find a new destination and go somewhere new. And so, yeah, we don't have a long term plan. I love what we're doing, and we've already seen that this year has been a blast. We've been on the road for a little over a year, and I'm ready to do it again.
I'm excited for 2023. So, this is our last episode of the year. We are taking a holiday break, but we will be back on January 1st. It's going to be our New Year's special, and we're going to be talking about the new year and everything that we're doing in 2023.
Ah, yes, unveiling our 2023 plans. We're kind of finalizing them now. So we will share with you what our travel plans are for 2023 in the next episode.
Keep subscribed and look out for that.
Yeah. Stay connected to us. We'd love to stay connected with you over the holiday break as well. So follow us on Instagram at WanderingRVBabe or email us at podcast@wanderingrvbabe.com. Happy holidays, and we will see you next time.
Merry Christmas!
Ho, 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 ho.
Oh.
So there's one thing that we didn't get to. Our little furry friend that joined us in Missouri. I think he got into the camper in Branson when we were still in Branson, and then we carried him with us to St. Louis.
I mean, we were moving him from location to location. Yeah, we could not find him for the life of us, but we found stuff from the trash that he'd pulled out and moved around. So we had to sanitize and wash a whole drawer of stuff because we knew he'd gotten in there. There were little mouse pooplets